Hey, good morning. It is Friday. Oh, I guess we're starting a live video. Let's get some people on here. It is Friday morning. It's day whatever of quarantine. We're excited because we've been doing a nice little bit for the last few where where we're hosting a bunch of tour players. And today we're lucky to have Keith Mitchell on. So right off the bat, I'm going to bring in Frederick Lindbloom right now. We're going to do a little discussion, and then we're going to have Keith on in just a few minutes. So here comes Frederick. You adding him live right now. Hey, Frederick, what's going on?
What's up, my man?
Not
All
too
good.
much. How are you doing?
Sweden. It has snowed the last 3 days, believe it or not, and I've played golf in snow for the last 3 days, so I'm trying to keep warm. But yeah, oh, at least we can play though.
So has being in the States, thinned out your blood, or can you still handle the cold like you used to?
I I cannot. I had a junior lesson last night. I'm telling you, it was 39 degrees, and two kids had shorts on, and I'm 14 jackets. You know, it's unbelievable. So yes, my I can't handle the cold anymore.
Things are a little different in Sweden than they are in living in Arizona where you are now, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's supposed to be a little bit warmer next week, but yeah, no, it's rough. It is what it is.
Is what it is. So how you been? You've been playing at all? You said you played a little in the snow?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to play every day, trying to keep my game sharp. Give a lot of lessons. I take care of the juniors because I don't have anything else to do really.
Hmm.
There's tournaments to play, so it's been great. Um, Obviously, it's cold, but the courses are pretty good. I played Brohof yesterday, which is like the number one course in Europe. Definitely
Hmm.
the Sweden. Unbelievable. So
Nice.
trying to do what I can to stay sharp. Really.
That's great. Well, hey, we're excited today. I know you were talking about a little bit on your Instagram page, and I was too as well. We got Keith Mitchell is going to come on here in a few minutes, and talk to me about what you know about Keith and his game.
So I've asked around. I've been based in Atlanta, Georgia, where you
Hmm.
guys are for a long time. So he went to UGA and he was a stud there. Obviously, he's a stud now, but he's known for being an unbelievable driver of the golf ball.
Hmm.
So and a very funny guy if you talk to his friends.
Right.
No, he just posted a really funny video on his Instagram. If you saw him trying to beat Victor Hovland in a pitching competition or a three shot.
Right.
If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's hysterical. But yeah, so everyone is. I mean, and this comes from all the PGA Tour players that I know that they wish they had the driving ability that Keith has, hitting the
Hmm.
ball long and straight. And I asked a little bit about because I'm using the SD200G driver right now, and I
Hmm.
love. And I asked a little bit about his specs. So he's using the more stable head, the SD200, right?
That's right. Yeah. So he's done a lot of testing between the G and the regular, and he played the ST190, the standard, not G1 also. And with the ST200, he picked the same one. He's more a guy who he wants to just from what I can tell, he wants to just go at it and know it's going to go straight. And if he can see it fall a little bit to the right, that's all that matters. Is just knowing exactly that same flight over and over again.
A lot of good drivers of the golf ball hit face. If you look at Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, all these guys are now, kind of preferring a left to right ball flight. I
Hmm.
know myself, I hate hitting my miss is left. And I think a lot of good players have a left miss if they have
Hmm.
a miss left. So hitting that little controlled fade is definitely a shot most players are trying to hit nowadays.
It's interesting. It's like those players who are blessed with so much speed. You talk about Kepka, you talk about Dustin. Tony Finau is the perfect example of a guy who, as soon as he learned that little cut shot and starts playing that, then
Yeah.
there's so much more control in that. And Keith's a perfect example of that, of someone who has, I mean, he's top tier ball speed out there on tour. And now that he has that little controllable cut shot, he can win at any level with that.
Oh, no doubt. But that being said, you almost beat him in a chipping competition. Let's be honest, you gave him that one.
I gave him that one. Well, here's what
Right?
I'll say. What I love about Keith, and whenever you get to mess around with Keith, and I did a competition, played a couple holes with him. He's just a trash talker. He wants to get in your ear. He wants to get in your head. And even if when you think you got him, he's probably going to talk you into a pretty bad shot, in which he usually does. So,
I love that. He's a very chill guy, and I asked a lot of players about him, and what came up all the time is his caddy Pete. That
mm-hmm.
guy's a legend out there. So
Crunchy Pete.
yeah, just to get a couple of questions, you got to figure out what's the funniest Pete story out there, no doubt.
Yes.
Out of here.
Yes.
And then I want to know kind of how they work together on the golf course, because it's obviously not just joking around. They're
Mm-hmm.
obviously serious when it's on. So it'll be
Right.
very interesting to hear kind of like how they work together,
Yeah.
because they're known for being, both of them, very fun guys outside of the golf course. So how
Mm-hmm.
are they on what is that look like, and obviously some funny stories would be fantastic.
That'll be good. I know they. I'm trying to think. Was it Scratch Golf? It was one of the. I think it might have been Scratch Golf. Did a little cartoon around Crunchy Pete, getting him to tell some stories around him. So I'll be very curious from Keith's side, really from the inside. What is he dealt with him? So it'll be fun.
Exactly. Yeah. No. No doubt. And obviously we're gonna hear why Keith believes he's a good driver of the golf ball.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of brain a little bit there. Why do you think you became such a good driver of the golf ball? What are your thoughts? And I also want to know, like, how aggressive is he with the driver? Is
Yeah.
he much hitting driver on every hole? Is it
Mm-hmm.
some system he use? I don't really like to hit driver on these type of holes, or is it more just I'm just gonna bomb it and
Yep.
hit it? I mean, obviously it's it straight. So is it really aggressive off the tee, or is it conservative? Questions like that would be fantastic too.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I might hop over, and then I appreciate you catching up with me for a few minutes. I'm going to hop over and add Keith on here and see what he's been up to, and then we'll look forward to catching up with you again soon. And I know we'll be in contact in the next couple of days. So appreciate
Absolutely.
you always spending a few minutes with us and giving your insight from the player side of some good questions that you want to know as well. So looking forward to it.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you later. Looking forward to it.
Yep. Talk to you in a few.
See you, bud.
Bye. All right, so I'm going to hop on over here and let's see if Keith's ready to go. Let me look right here. I'm looking to see if he's. There we go. I'm going to add him right now, and he should be on here in just a few minutes. So yeah, it's Frederick's always a great.
Yes, sir.
Oh, what's up, dude?
I'm here.
What's happening?
Nothing. I got my sticks with me. I'm drinking some coffee on the porch. I'm not doing
Nice.
much right now. So
Nice. It looks a little warmer where you are than where Frederick was. I was just talking to a few minutes ago.
It's very, very hot. It's probably already almost 80 right now.
Oh, nice. So are you at home in Sea Island?
Yeah, I'm here right now.
Excellent. So, dude, it's good to catch up with you. I want to just figure out what you've been up to, see how you're feeling, getting ready to kick things back off, and it's coming up relatively quick.
I know it snuck up faster than I thought. I shut it down pretty hard for about 3 or 4 weeks because it was the first time as a golfer in general, a competitive golfer, that I've never felt like I had to be practicing or I was behind because no one was playing and no one was playing for a long time. Because usually when you take a week off on tour, someone else is either practicing or they're passing you in the FedEx Cup.
Right.
So the first couple of weeks, was the first time I never felt guilty about not practicing. So that was fun. But now, I mean, I'm full speed ahead, getting ready because Colonial is going to be right around the corner.
That's good. So you've been I know you were playing with Grayson a couple weeks ago. He was talking a little trash about getting into your pocket a little bit.
Yeah,
so
he did.
Hopefully you've flipped that on him.
Grayson's one of the hottest players on earth right now. For those that don't know Grayson, he will be on the PGA Tour, I guess, whenever the next Corn Ferry Tour graduates, because he is unbelievable. I played with him in Georgia for a year, played all 4 years, All-American. He's a stud.
Nice. So talk to me about your bag. What all you've been looking at? What all you've been working on, or anything in particular you're focusing on?
Well, I got my MP20s right here, and
nice.
I had the Coppers, but Kyle is doing a little bit of tuning up on them right now.
Are you thinking of playing the coppers?
Well, I would like to.
Okay.
It's just a swing weight issue right now because they don't have the extra weight around the head because they don't have this chrome plating on it. So if we can find a way to make the swing weights match my gamers, then without changing the center of gravity, then we'll do it.
Yeah.
And because I've hit them, I liked them, but they're just a little off. So they're in the truck right now. They're getting tuned up. And
nice.
then, fingers crossed, y'all might see some coppers in play at Colonial.
That would look pretty sick. I remember we talked when we were down at Sea Island, I guess this was in December or something, and you said that your head weights are pretty heavy compared to a standard one.
Yeah, I just like to feel the head more. I like my irons are they're I think a 1/4 inch longer and a 1/2 degree upright, so it just kind of makes them a little heavier and with X1. So I think they're anywhere between D4 to D5.5, depending on whatever machine you use. So they're right in that area. So I mean, not crazy heavy, but they're definitely on the heavier side.
And you're right, because when you do just a raw copper head, that people don't think that chrome plating on top, that adds about 3 grams or about a swing weight 1.5 to it. So it makes sense that those ones right off the bat came in a little bit light, but I know Kyle will find a way to make it happen. So
yeah, and we don't really want to put lead tape on them because that would that's like I don't even know I can't even compare that to anything. You know, a pretty set of irons with a piece of lead tape. I mean,
it's like one of those little donut wheels.
but
It's like one of those little donut wheels on a Ferrari. It might not look very good.
Training wheels.
Exactly. So obviously, whenever we're talking to you, we always like to talk about driving the ball. I always go back to like that shot you hit on 18 to literally to ice to make birdie to ice the Honda last year, and it was one of those ones you stood over that ball maybe an extra second or two, and then you bombed it. So I want to hear about your mindset on driving it. I know that's what you're known for more than anything is you're blessed with a ton of speed. You're one of the most accurate drivers. Well, just love to talk about your mindset with driving the ball and what you're thinking about.
Well, I tell you what, the biggest thing about driving for me was I started hitting a cut or a fade probably my junior or senior year in college. And that's what changed my driving because I've always had the speed, but the accuracy was a little not really there. And I always either tried to hit a straight ball or a draw, and I never really had any consistency. And the reason I didn't hit a fade was because I felt like it didn't go as far. Well, I promise you now with the equipment and all the new shafts and the heads and everything that you can now hit a fade equally as far as a draw because you use the equipment to take the spin off. Back in the day when everybody's using balata balls, you would, as a player, have to take spin off, and therefore that's how they hit balls. But now you can use equipment to take spin off. And I think that's why the best drivers in the world, I mean, I take Rory out of the equation because he's a anomaly. But like Dustin, Brooks, John Rahm, all these guys, the best drivers in the ball, they all hit fades because they don't lose distance because of the equipment can knock the spin off. And it's not saying the ball goes farther. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is like if you hit a fade and hit a draw with the same shaft, one would have more spin, one would have less. So the fade would have more. But then you just take a stiffer shaft or a less spinning shaft and hit that same shot. Therefore, it goes just as far as the draw. And I mean, I'm not to get too into body, but you can turn a lot harder hitting a fade and holding the shaft. That sometimes your club head speed actually goes up just because of your swing pattern than trying to come inside and out. So you can. I think now the reason all these guys are hitting fades is because they can have the control and not lose distance.
That's a really interesting take on it. And I totally agree with you where it used to be, let's say, you're hitting 175, 180 ball speed, something like that. If you're wanting to be around 2000 RPM, the equipment didn't used to be able to do that. The only way you could do that was to hit that draw shot. So now that the spin rates are so low on drivers, if you can get that 2000, 2200 with a cut, you get control, you get the distance, you get everything that you couldn't do before.
Yeah, because you're getting fades that still roll forever. I mean, you got to be able to have that. And that's not that's not anything other than the ability to take spin off the ball, whether it's shaft or driver head. You know, because you could do. I mean, you could have it play a spinny ball like Tiger. Tiger plays is probably one of the spinniest balls in the market, and he can still take the spin off of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I saw a great question on here. Do you have any driving drills that you like to do? Do you have a couple that you always like to work on?
I mean, the only time my driver ever gets out of whack is when my length gets too long and I try to hit it too hard. And then it's kind of counterintuitive sometimes because then your sequencing gets off and you can't match it up, and then you start hitting it unsolid. So I just try to make sure that I stop. Or really, if my takeaway's like nice and slow, what feels slow to me at least, then I'm usually my driver's in a good position, and I'll hit it well. But if my takeaway ever gets fast on the way back, that's when I get into some trouble.
Right. Well, what's funny, I guess there was a video that we did not too long ago where you were kind of critiquing my driver swing. You're telling me to get my hands forward, move the ball back. Dude, here's what I'll say. You're dead right, because I've done that and I'm driving it better. So thank you. I appreciate you.
There you go. You can't have the ball too far forward. People try to hit it high and they move the ball forward, and then they start leaning, and then it's just all over the place. You're
exactly right. So I always like to talk. I was talking to Frederick Lindblom a few minutes ago about you and your caddy and your relationship. I know Pete's one of those guys he's such a personality out there. I'd love to just hear a little bit about how you guys interact on the course. You know, I know you tend to be a somewhat lighthearted guy out there. How do you, when it gets serious, how do you guys work together?
Well, probably the best Pete story I have was when I was on the Korn Ferry Tour my second year. We had a break in the middle of the season, so I went to try to Monday qualify for the Valspar. And we Monday qualified in, made it through in a playoff. And my first ever PGA Tour event, I'm not on the PGA Tour. I am so nervous. Anyway, I make the cut after the first two rounds. I shoot probably one over maybe on the front nine on Saturday. And I'm playing with somebody on tour that I'm not going to name, but they're a very slow player. And I am super nervous, so I'm taking forever. And we get put on the clock, and I'm like stressed. I'm one over, like I haven't hit but like 3 greens probably. And so I start getting he can start seeing that I'm getting all jittery and antsy and everything. And we're walking down 10 fairway, and he looks over, and there's a food truck over to the left.
Okay.
And we're like, all fans are just getting food. And he kind of looks at me and he goes, man, if you ever had a food truck, what food do you think you'd serve at? And I looked at him in such shock because, most guys would be like, come on, we're going to stay positive, stay in the moment, all that about, whatever the caddy handbook would say. And he's talking to me about what food I would have. And I cracked the biggest smile, and I think I shot like 300 on the backside. And the whole time, all we were trying to figure out was if we wanted tacos, if we wanted pizza, whatever we would want, whatever we would serve as our food truck. And it was one of the best 9 holes attitude changes I've ever had.
I love it. And that's from a good dynamic. That's him being him, and also him understanding you and what you needed to be to perform.
It's him being genuine, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if someone wasn't like Pete and they said that, you'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, where'd you get that from?
Right.
Pete is so genuine like that he can say that and get away with it.
And what'd you land on?
That's a good question. I honestly, I don't remember. I'll have to rope Pete in and figure out what we were going to do.
We need to revisit this.
He had something real funky. I can't remember what it was.
Some sort of fusion.
It was weird. Anyway, but that was by far the best Pete story I can remember.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I'd love for you to walk through your bag if you got a few minutes. If you don't mind talking about what you got, what you're playing now, and what you're always looking for in your equipment, that'd be awesome.
Well, I was probably the guinea pig on the Mizuno driver, I would say. The story was, it was in the winter. Oh, no, excuse me. It was after my first season on tour. I was using a TaylorMade M1 440 head, and I used it my year prior on the Korn Ferry Tour and all the first year on the PGA Tour. But I would crack a head probably every 3 to 4 months, and I would never really know when it cracked. It would always take like a bad couple days of driving to really realize it.
Right.
And but I had some backup heads, and I was whatever. And then Cookie made me drive down to Jacksonville, test this new Mizuno driver, and I'm like, whatever, like I'll do it to be a favor. And I left there and never took it out of the bag. It was
Nice.
the ST 190,
Yep.
and used it and hit it incredible. Same shaft, same specs, really, and just put the new head on, which was rare. Like if you think of the differences, probably from the TaylorMade head to the Mizuno head, there was probably a lot of differences, but for some odd reason, it was the same. And so I used the ST 190 and got my first win probably 4 months later.
Yeah.
And I was, my first year on tour, I was 7th in strokes gained off the tee, and then last year I was 6th. So it was just as good, if not better.
That's awesome.
And then I was kind of in the same boat. Like I really didn't want to change. Like I love my driver. Why would I want to change? And I kind of was going back and forth with shafts and drivers and this and that. And then the new, so the, what is this? The ST
200.
200. What's the bottom of that one mean?
Yeah, that's just the standard ST200, not the G, not the X. That's the more stable head. So that's the standard ST200.
So the weird thing about this was, I like to hit a fade, but, we always talk about a driver looking square, not looking hooked. Well, this driver was so, like, almost like, it's almost a click open, and I usually like a click open, and it was a little flat, which is incredible for guys that like to hit fades. But my old driver was dead square, and so I actually put this one on the upright setting, which I would never do in any other club if I'm trying to hit a cut. So I actually have this on, so it's a 9.5 head on 9.5 U, which is 9.5 upright, which is pretty, like, I was shocked when we did that but if you put my old 190 and put this one on the loft machine, the lies would become the same when it was upright. So, I mean, that's just kind of the things when you get new drivers. They're never exactly the same. You got to kind of tweak them a little bit here and there. But we put some hot melt in here, and my driver swing weight or swing balance is what they should really call it, but is right at D4.
Okay.
So it's a little heavier, but I also like feeling the head. I like knowing where it is, and I like it dragging behind just a little bit with that weight so I can hit that fade.
Nice. Well, yeah, I remember when we first talked, you were so happy with your 190 that it was like, as soon as we're coming to you with a new one, you were a little bit, we'll see.
But it's so rare when you find something you love. It's like you don't want to switch because it's hard to make it better. And this one, I mean, it's a little bit, it spins this much less and than my 190, which was just that much better, right? Like I didn't have to change shafts. Like I could have taken the spin off of my 190, but then you got to go in circles and find what to do with it and there's and there. This one, I just put the head in and it spun that much less, and it was perfect.
And that's awesome. So on your iron side, I know you said you got some MP20s, but then at the top end of your bag, you've always done some interesting things. I know you've had some 1 irons, 2 irons. What do you got now?
Yes, my 1 iron and my 2 iron are downstairs. I keep them. So I travel with a driver, 3-wood, 5-wood. Well, I don't even know if they're really 3-wood or 5-wood. It's a 16.5 degree and a 21 degree wood.
Okay, so that's lofty. That's really like almost like a 4 and 7 wood in terms of loft.
Exactly. And the reason is I want them to go a distance. And when you get a wood, and if I kind of compress it a little bit, if I compress a wood at 18 degrees, it's out of here. And then I remember I was hitting y'all's latest 3-wood at like 14 degrees, and it was almost, it was going too far. And the only reason I hit a 3-wood is to be short of my driver.
Right. It's a layup.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm laying up. So I have a 1 iron and a 2 iron when I'm hitting a lot of clubs less than driver off the tee. So if I'm going into par 5, if the golf course is soft, I'm going to use a 3-wood and 5-wood, no matter what, because those 1 and 2 irons, they don't fly very far. They run. And then if I have to hit a lot of shots into par 5s and 2, 3-wood and 5-wood all day, because a 1 iron and 2 iron, they're going to land. If they land on the green, they're over the green.
Right.
So like last year at the match play in Austin, I had driver and then all irons.
Oh, nice.
That golf course was it was kind of short off the tee, a lot of quirky, turns, and it was really, really dry. So the ball was running. So I could hit a 1 iron. It's got a, I think it's like 16 degrees.
That's right.
So,
Yep.
but it's got a hazardous shaft in it. So it's got a graphite shaft in it. It's got a big sole on the bottom, so it's not like a blade. Don't get me wrong; it's like a driving iron. But I mean, if I hit it really good off the tee, it would fly probably 260, 265. But if the fairways were firm, I mean, it's going 290 easy. So I love that club's great. I use it in the British Open too. But the 1-iron is, I use it at the Sony Open. I use it there. The 1-iron probably comes into play about 4 events a year.
Okay.
The 2-iron's probably 50-50 with a 5-wood.
Okay, nice. How about on the short iron side? How many wedges do you play? What lofts do you like? And, what are you looking for in wedges?
Yeah, the interesting thing about my irons and my wedges is that I compress my lofts between my 8-iron and my gap wedge. And the reason that is I hit my 8-iron about 175 yards. And between 175 yards and about 115 is where most of my par 4 shots are. That's where, like, if a hole's 500 yards and I hit 320, I'm going to have 180, right? So, therefore, I'm going to hit 8-iron, between 8-iron and gap wedge into every par 4. So my 8-iron's 40 degrees. My 9-iron is 43.5. Pitch and wedge 47 and gap wedge 50. So I have 4 clubs in a 10-degree gap because I don't want to have to adjust a lot of my swing or take some off. I want to be able to hit standard shots because that's the majority of where my shots are taking place. Now, the reason those lofts are a little funky is my 50-degree is a typical wedge head. At 50, my pitch and wedge is only 3 degrees because it's 47 because it's an iron head. So it's like a muscle back. So that will actually go farther than a wedge head.
It's got a different type of groove on it too. So the spin rates are going to be different. Yeah.
Exactly. So I have a little bit weaker because if I had a normal wedge head, I would probably have to play 46. But I'm a little weaker because it's 47, right? And then the 43.5 is halfway between 47 and 40. For my 9-iron. So that way I have a lot of, because those are only 3.5 degrees difference, and my 8-iron to my 4-iron are 4-degree difference. Because I just wanted to have a little bit tighter dispersion or tighter, gap in those shorter irons because that's where I use them mostly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Iron set, there's big spacing. Hopefully I'm back. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yeah.
All right, good. I would say hopefully a lot of people listen to this and take that to heart because, a lot of iron sets are pretty spaced out on the short iron end. Then you get to the long iron end where you're not trying to be as precise and the lofts are a little bit tighter. So I love it that you've dialed your set in like that. That's really good.
And that's that's my scoring club for par 4s. I mean,
that's awesome. Well, hey, I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but more than anything, I just wanted to get on here and catch up with you and run through your bag and see how everything's going and really wish you luck when things get back going again. So we're excited to see you card that next victory.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I was listening to y'all real quick about Frederick asking when I hit drivers and how I play, if I play aggressive.
Yes.
I wanted to iterate on when I hit drivers because it's kind of, I don't know, the strokes can get off the tee stat can be a little skewed, but it also is, if you do it over an entire year, it's not as much. But my philosophy on drivers is if the fairway is equidistant or is the same width as where it would be with any other club, then I'm hitting driver every time. Because I never want to take out a 3-wood and say, I'm going to hit this just to get it in the fairway. That is that is my worst fear. That's like playing scared. That's playing like I'm just hitting through it because I think I hit it straighter than my driver. I mean, whether you do or not, I'm out on that. So I'll hit driver if the fairway is the same width. Now, the only time I won't hit driver is if it's a dog leg left and my ball's fading and therefore it makes the fairway smaller simply by the angle. So the fairway could be 20 yards wide all the way around, but if my driver's coming in the opposite way, the dog leg is technically not as wide.
Does your 3-wood turn over more than your driver?
So I'd turn my 3-wood over just about. I mean, I really hit a fade with my driver and then a straight ball to potentially draw on almost every other club. But as long as I'm shallow with my irons and hitting fades and, whatever. But my point
That's
is,
good. So yeah, it
is
sounds like you just want to make an aggressive swing on everything, right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no point in in my eyes is to hit a club that you're going to hit straighter just because you hit it straighter. Like, you need to go test your driver. Now, I mean, maybe I'm just blessed and I can hit my driver as straight as every other club, and therefore that's just a lucky thing for me because Tiger won the British Open hitting a 2-iron on every hole. Like,
right.
I mean, I couldn't tell Tiger. Tiger would say, "Well, I won a major doing it. And you've only won one tournament." So
Right.
I'm not saying that's the right thing for everyone. I'm saying that's what I did.
Well, it's awesome. What I love is that everything is thought out too. I mean, you understand your game, you understand how you swing best, you even understand your equipment to the level of getting it dialed in to optimize some certain shots that you try to play. So it's good. I think that's what it takes to be an elite player like you is a full understanding of what you're trying to do. So it takes a lot of that indecision out, and that doubt in yourself because there's a process in all of this.
Yeah, all I'm doing is eliminating variables that would potentially be a negative. Like, the best example is Kyle and I, about once every 6 months, will go in the truck and we'll play some music and we will start weighing every grip, every shaft, every head, and build my set of irons from scratch. Because he's always said, like, if a grip's 1 or 2 grams lighter than another and the shaft happens to be 1 or 2 grams lighter than the other, then you're 4 grams different on the butt end of the club than you are on the head, and then therefore you got to manipulate the head to try to get the same weight. So we just started from, I mean, it takes forever, but I enjoy it. He enjoys it. We just block out some time. It probably takes 3 or 4 hours and just organizing before he ever even starts building.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. Most players would be like, just whatever, just give me a set of irons and I'll hit them and I'll figure it out. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying I enjoy the process of Kyle and I going in and just absolutely geeking out on my clubs.
That's great. And it's the reason why you have such an understanding of what your equipment's going to do and a level of confidence in that equipment as well, because you took those variables out.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to look through here. Do we have any good questions that came up on here?
Let's see. Let's flip through here. You were hitting your 1-iron bombs at Harbortown last year. No doubt about that. Let's see. A lot of comments on tacos. I think that's
wedges in the bag. What does that even mean? My wedge lofts are 59, 54, 50, 47 and a half. Little strange, but again, I like, it's
nice. Well, so what is the rest of your day looking like today? What do you got planned out?
Let's see. I worked out this morning. I'll probably gain about 15 pounds in this quarantine.
Nice.
So I got to start getting some cardio in, or else I won't be able to walk the golf course. Thank goodness we're at Fort Worth and Hilton Head the first 2 weeks. Those are probably
easy walks, right?
Yeah. So I got to get back in shape, and then I got a match this afternoon at Sea Island. It's Harris English and I are playing Hudson Swafford, and then the assistant pro at Charlie Killian at one of the courses, and then one of the members. And so it's a little 2-on-3 match this afternoon.
I like it. And what's the typical game there? I don't really care about the stakes, but what's the game?
So usually we'll oftentimes we'll do just like 10 a hole and 10 a birdie.
Okay.
And so if you win the hole with a par, you only get $10 if you win the hole with a birdie. But that means all the birdies count.
Yep.
So if you're counting all those, and then usually when people get upset or lose the hole, they start pressing. So
I like it. Well, dude, hey, I really appreciate you taking all this time out, and I know you got a day ahead of you, so hopefully you can go in and make about 18 birdies, and that should be a nice little payday. But no, let's get together again soon, and tell us anything we can do to help you out equipment wise. But it sounds like you got yourself pretty dialed in right now. Yeah, as long as Kyle keeps doing what he's doing, we're in good shape. Dude, and let's hope he gets those copper ones ready to go. Those are going to be sick in the bag. Fingers crossed those copper guys might make it out. We'll see. Awesome. Well, Keith, really appreciate you carving out this time for us, and we'll catch you soon. All right. See you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, everybody.